The number of confirmed cases across the world quickly rises.
We all need to take steps to reduce close human contact.
You are not immune. People should stay indoors and stay safe.
Look out for yourself.
Welcome back, guys. Section number 4 of chapter number 1 coming up. So this is another simple one to play, but the underlying concepts are rather interesting, I'd say. And there's a lot more than meets the eye. So let's go through that as quickly as we can. The notes themselves in this lick are simple. It is basically another ascending sequence lick in D minor. So we have, which is 9th and 7th fret, 9, 7, 9, 7, 9, 7 on the G string, so E, F, E, F, E, F. And then that becomes a little sequence which we move upwards to the next scale degree, which would be F and E. And then one more step to G and F. Right, and finally we want to land on A, which is the perfect fifth of D. And finally then it resolves to this D chord here, which is D on the open string and D on the 7th fret on the G string. And now the way that we will be playing this is with a technique called tremolo-picking. Almost missed the correct term there for a moment. So tremolo-picking is very similar to alternate picking. It's the same down up movement. Right? Same thing. But the difference is that with alternate picking, usually you want to have a synchronized effort between left and right hand. So in this example here, every time I go to a new note, I have to do something in the left hand and in the right hand. And the difference with tremolo picking is that you're basically automizing this motion and you're trying to reach a certain speed. It doesn't need to be super exact, but you try to hold this motion up at a certain speed. And then while this goes on automatically, you concentrate on playing another melody and another thing in the left hand. And we are basically creating the speed or the illusion of playing 16th notes here in the right hand. And remember what I said in one of the last episodes about creating these little tension plateaus or plateaus of momentum rhythmically, where we went from 8 notes and quarter notes in the first section to a short burst of 8-note triplets in the second section to a short burst of 16 notes in the third section. And so now the logical thing to do, would be to use a short burst maybe of 16-note triplets to take it to that next level. But since this is still the beginner section, I thought 16-note triplets on, I think, 220 BPM tempo was just a bit too much to ask for this section. So that was kind of like out of the question. And also that gave me the idea of telling you guys about another way that you can create that same effect of increased momentum and tension, which is that if you have teased these subdivisions before, remember we teased 8-note triplets with a short burst of them, and we teased 16th notes with short bursts of them, but we never really had these subdivisions go on for a longer period of time. So now first teasing 16th notes and then playing 16 notes for a longer period of time will also give you that added dimension of intensity and momentum. So that's also a good thing to keep in mind. You don't always need to go to the next possible subdivision to increase that tension and to put that pressure on, but you can also just play with short bursts and then longer parts of the same subdivision if you want to. And this is what we're doing right here. So we are creating the illusion of 16 notes in the right hand, which goes on through this entire upwards melody. Right? So you really just need to figure out how fast it feels to you. You don't need to be able to play super exact 16th notes with that particular technique, but figure out how fast you need to move your hand to be able to do that. And then you just try to forget about it and just leave that motor running while you do something else. And if you struggle with that, you can, for example, do what I'm doing right now. You can create the 16th notes in the right hand and you can talk over them. Right? That trains your brain to disconnect these two abilities, talking, concentrating on something, and moving your hand and automating physical behavior. You can disconnect those two. That's basically what drummers do all the time, right? They have one physical thing going on and then they kind of automate it so it will just continue doing this thing while they focus their attention on a different body part doing something else. And really, you're not doing anything different if you're driving a car, right? Let alone you're talking while you're driving a car. You're automating some physical tasks in your body and you're focusing your conscious attention on something else, like talking, hopefully not texting. So that's what we're doing. And we can basically just start practicing that slowly if we want it to be super exact, but we can also go the tremolo picking way and just first focus on the sensation of creating this continuous 16th note feel on the right hand, and then once we got that, we bring in the melody. So, and that kind of spoilers the last part here, because I could also just keep ascending with the sequence to G and A, but I wanted to squeeze in one more little trick or technique at the very end, again maybe to put on more pressure and to develop a little bit more momentum before we resolve everything to that D chord. So what I'm doing is I am bending up to that A from the 12th fret. So G, bend up to A. And you can see that I'm using my index finger and my thumb to help me execute this bend. And also, something that even I myself haven't really noticed is that I am bringing my pinky on top of the E and B strings just to help the muting process, right? So muting going on here from the thumb, muting going on here from the pinky, and then muting going on here from the palm. Because you want to be extra sure that there's no other strings or spare parts ringing out when you surely don't want them to. So we're bending up from G to A, and now we are letting the bend return slowly, then bending back up, back to A, and once we hit that last A, I'm basically letting the bend return just a little bit, far less than we did at the first time. Sorry, that was too high. And so we're going back between A and just below A. And that creates this sort of howling sensation. It's a very haunting sound. And it doesn't need to be super exact. You know, it's just this howling sound of a guitar crying out in pain, maybe. I don't know what you guys think of it, but that is basically the idea. You're giving this note a personality. You're giving it an emotion. And that is a good way to increase the momentum yet again before you let it all resolve to that D. And so on that D note, there's another little thing happening, which I've been waiting to talk about for a while. So if you watch really closely, in the playthrough, you can see that I'm playing that note and at the same time I'm hitting the pickup switch. And the way I'm doing this is basically by prolonging the movement. So I have this picking motion going by hitting the chord. But if I don't stop doing this after this short movement, but just keep going down in this half moon, half circle way, I will be hitting the pickup switch with my pinky, of the outside of my pinky. And with a little bit of training, you can do that really exactly. Right? And so the time that passes between hitting those strings and then activating the pickup switch and going to the bridge pickup will be very, very, very short, just a couple of milliseconds. And so for the listener, there's really no difference that, whether you are starting to play this chord on the neck pickup and then activating the pickup switch, or activating the pickup switch and going to the bridge pickup before. All he hears is the sound of the bridge pickup on that particular chord. And to me, that's really important. It's one of those little details that make your playing stand out, right? And I clearly remember seeing this thing in action for the first time as a teenager when I got my very first instructional, not DVD, but in those days it was VHS, and it was John Petrucci's Rocket Discipline. And among many, many other things about that instructional video, what stood out to me was the way that he was constantly switching between the pickups in the middle of solos, in the middle of certain melodies even. When he was playing one thing, he would play it on the neck pickup. Maybe if he was ascending a scale, he was playing on the neck pickup. And then when he was descending, he was switching instantaneously to the bridge pickup. And that left a lasting impression on me, because that attention to detail, to that willingness to have every note and every phrase have its unique character and a unique sound, that just blew my mind at that time. And I try to incorporate that in my playing, obviously, later on. And the idea here is that we are choosing the best possible pickup for the line that we played before. And for me, this combination of tremolo picking and this ascending melody in the left hand demands to be played on the neck pickup, because it has that nasal, warm quality that I really like. Basically, it lets the notes bleed into each other a little bit more. There's less separation, and it's just less harsh. So that's something that I really like to do when I'm soloing. But then once we go to that last chord, it's basically a D chord on the two rhythm guitars and a D chord in the middle for the lead guitar. So now the two rhythm guitars will definitely be playing that with maximum output on the bridge pickup, going for that really edgy, high output bridge pickup sound, right? You know what I'm talking about. The bridge pickup sound is just so different when you're playing an open power chord. A little bit off. So when you're playing that on the bridge pickup, it just has a certain sound. Playing that on the neck pickup, not really the same, right? That has a little bit of fuzziness to it. And so the thinking process here is that we want to stand out when we are soloing, right? So going to the neck pickup is doing the opposite to what the rhythm guitars are doing. It helps us to stand out in the sonic space. But then on a chord like that, when the whole song comes to a conclusion, we want to go blend in with the band again. It's sort of like when you're standing on stage and there comes your time to take a guitar solo. Sometimes you will just take a step towards the audience. So you will be closer to the audience, and it will be clear that it's your time now. It's your time to play something, and the attention is on you. But then when your solo is finished, oftentimes, subconsciously, you just find yourself taking a step back, and you go back in line with the other members of the band. And this is sort of subconsciously creating that same effect, right? You want to stand out when you're soloing, even in your choice of the pickups on your guitar. And then when you come out of the solo and you fall back in line with the other members of the band, that choice should be reflected in your choice of pickups on the guitar. And this little technique of switching pickups at the same time of playing a chord can help with that. And in that sense, I hope this whole series of sequences of lessons has helped you so far, and I'll be seeing you in the next chapter. Happy practicing.